Pittman radio show brought to you by Grand Valley State University. We broadcast live on Facebook, YouTube, and live on 103.7. What are you doing today, Your Honor?
Hey, man, listen. I was just thinking, you got to be a bad dude to just go by two letters, P.A. Got to be a bad man.
It'd be hard for them to figure out their real name, Judge, unless they know me. Unless they from Baker Street, you know? Unless they went to Lindbergh, you know?
Lindbergh.
Right. Right.
Marva Parks as that principal.
That's right. Yeah. Was it Miss Denner, gym teacher? And yeah, we had a bunch of good folks over there. So, hey, we almost there, man. 12 days.
Whoo, man, doesn't it feel like a lifetime?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you and I were talking a little bit off before you started. You're spending your time back and forth between two swing states. It's a lot. You're just being deluged with this. You're being inundated with all.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. I need a helicopter to make it to all the stuff that's going on. You know, Kamala Harris was here in Orlando right now and couldn't make it to the event because this got so much going on. And you know, it is what it is. You know, Trump was in Muskegon over the weekend. You know, so being in two swing states and two areas that's very vital to the election process is definitely keeping you busy.
I know. Well, as involved and as committed as you are to making sure that people are informed and getting the word out, I know it's keeping you hopping. So
I gotta trying to stay fit, Judge, so I can be ready for this thing. Gotta stay ready.
Yeah, can't get ready, gotta be ready.
But yeah, stay ready so you can be ready. I'm saying hello, Anthony Miller online and saying evening, gentlemen. Hey, Tony, Pasta Tony, out there in the Bluffton neighborhood, checking us out.
Yeah, that's my old neighborhood.
Yes, sir. So 11 days and a wake up. That's what the inmates would say. 11 days and a wake up.
11 days and a get up. Mm-hmm.
You guys, what's the name of that committee that you're chair of?
I chair the Muskegon County Election Commission.
Any information you can share with us? Anything you need to share that you haven't talked about?
Today is what, October 22?
Yes, sir.
Then what I would simply share is that you can go and vote at the clerk's office where you live. If you live in Muskegon Township, you can go to the clerk's office during their business hours and vote. Now, today, not today, I'd imagine they're closed. You have to go during their business hours, but you can go and request your ballot and vote. If you live in the city of Muskegon Heights, you can go during business hours and vote. And you can do that every day, I believe, right up until Election Day. So if I want to share anything with folks from the Election Commission, because obviously we're nonpartisan, we're non-biased, we have no favorites. It's our job to try to make sure that the elections are done as best as possible. And what I think serves that purpose is everybody knowing that they can go and vote now. Some states call it early voting, you know, and those that call it early voting usually have like the actual machines set up to go in and vote. In Michigan, it's not known by that, but you can go and request your absentee ballot on the spot and vote right there when you get that ballot.
Your early voting started this past Monday here in Orlando, here in Florida, and they've been lined up.
Yeah,
lined up.
And you know, it's always 75, 80 degrees where you are this time of year. But here in Muskegon today, PA, it's cold, it's wet. Wow. It's the kind of day that you don't ever want to move out, you know, leave from inside the house, right? And that's the kind of weather that you may encounter on election day if you're waiting
Exactly.
for election day. And that's going to cause some people to say, well, I'm just not going, or I'm not going to stand in line, or I don't want to be out there. So get up and go take care of that tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't wait. And it only, 15, 20 minutes of waiting. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Even if it's that long.
Right.
Even if it's that long. I see a question, is it too late to register?
From Michael Smith down in Texas.
Yep. No, in the state of Michigan, it is not too late to register to vote. You can no longer register online.
Okay.
Now you have to appear at your municipality, the city or township that you live in. You have to appear at their clerk's office and register. But you can register. I think we have, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we have same day registration.
Yeah.
So you can register on the day of election, which is November 3rd.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes, because I'm sure there's going to be some folks who get discouraged.
Man, you remember Key? You might be a little too young to remember Key Smith, Danny and Tony Smith's brother played ball.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Oh, yeah. Wow, man, his brother's one of my favorite teachers of all time. Oh, and yeah. I think the reason why I'm into politics because of how he taught political science class at Mesquite Heights. Made it fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. Daddy brought it, man.
A lot of fun. He usually just sent me to Sam's to go get him a Coke.
Oh, wow. Anthony Miller asked a question I can't answer. What are the numbers of voters and non-voters in the Heights? I can't
That's
answer
a good
that
question. But you know what, PA?
Uh-huh.
I would hazard a guess that there's too many non-voters and not enough voters. I think we can say that probably.
Yeah.
Because you can say that everywhere.
Yeah. I think it was around 10% turnout for primary, something around there.
Wow.
We do know tomorrow, Camilla Harris, her husband, will be in Muskegon. And
oh, really?
Yeah. And it's and they're cranking up. Well, both parties are cranking up the Get Out the Vote campaign. I see Lizzo is performing in Detroit.
Oh.
And she's from Detroit, so she's coming back home to campaign, and I think Big Sean is doing something in Detroit. Yeah. So
good.
They're trying to get people rallied. My question to you, Judge, do stuff like this help when celebrities come in? Do they help? Because the Grand Old Party don't get a bunch of celebrities out there for them, and they still do numbers.
Well, you know what? I think anything that brings attention to the issue, to the idea that it's election season and it's time to vote, has to help. It absolutely has to help. And let's make the record clear. The GOP, they have their share of celebrities. I just think you don't have very many who want to be seen out front with Donald Trump.
They on a low. They on a DL over there.
Yeah. I mean, if following Lizzo is what helps people to be motivated to find out what this voting thing is all about, let's do it.
Right. Jonathan Pittman, your distant cousin from Utah. No, that's joking.
Right.
Jonathan Pittman says, how many days after November the 3rd to get the final results? What are you thinking?
That's a phenomenal question. And if anybody had the answer, they would be incredibly in demand, because here's the thing. Every state that has absentee, remote, early voting, all of those kinds of things, has their own different rule about how votes are, processed and counted. Some places you can, they may allow as much as another week for ballots that have been postmarked but not received to be counted. some places like I can't keep up with all the legislation, but there was just a court case. It may have been here in Michigan that said that only the votes that are received by mail that are in possession of the clerk's offices on election day are going to be counted.
Okay. Yeah, either Michigan or Pennsylvania, one of those.
I thought they allowed. I thought I heard a court case in Pennsylvania that says that they were going to allow up to 3 days after the election to count ballots that were postmarked as of November 3rd. Could be. Hey man, it's so much litigation. Lawyers are making money right now.
They're getting paid.
They're getting paid because there is so much litigation that is surrounding the rules of engagement. That's why, I don't know how your listeners feel, but I've always had the idea that the presidential election year, every 4 years, those elections should be governed by rules that are created by the federal government, and every state follow the exact same rules.
Okay, right.
It's instead of there being 50 different states with 50 different processes that allow 50 different ways for these votes to be tabulated, every 4 years, when it's the presidential year, the vote should be conducted pursuant to federal rules, federal statutes that are created that every state has to follow.
I feel you. And we got some people down in Houston, Texas, showing us love today. Even Pastor Jay Driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's correct in Pennsylvania.
That brother stays in contact.
Yes, good people. If you have a question for the judge, you're listening to us on radio, you can go online to our Facebook page, type that question in, or you can text us at 231-722-8338. You can text us at 231-722-8338. Pastor Barnes watching, saying, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think Pastor Barnes, another high tiger great.
2 things about that. There should be streamlined, consistent federal rules regarding that election in that 4th year. And that every 4th year, the election year, which is prescribed by the Constitution, should be, we call it a holiday, but that should be a day where people are able to be excused from work,
Right.
and be able to go out and vote that day without having to try and do it before work or at lunchtime or after work. There should be a voting holiday every 4 years,
Right,
during the presidential election, where people don't have to worry about being at a job and they can go out and cast their vote.
You know what? Big Rob, Mihan, and myself, we were in Jamaica for a national election, and they shut the country down. No school. It's just like what you just said, a holiday.
Yeah.
And we had a chance to go to one of the radio stations there, and FM radio stations, and man, they took this thing as if their life depended on it. Like and they took it very serious, holding people accountable for not voting.
Yeah. Well, the game that's being played right now, and that has been developing over a lot of years. This isn't just the first time for all of us to appreciate that games are played during these elections. But the game that's being played now is just so incredibly inconsistent with what supposedly is the idea about, the sanctity of voting. It shouldn't be harder to vote. It should be easier to vote.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with making sure that we do things that protect the quality and the results of the vote. I think that's appropriate.
Uh-huh.
But there shouldn't be obstacles thrown in people's path to be able to go out and vote, man. You know, and that's in my mind, that is totally inconsistent with what democracy is supposed to be about, what this country, what the Constitution is supposed to, you know, really promote and uphold. We should be trying to find ways to make it easy for people to cast their vote.
Exactly. Anthony Miller has a question. What does the judge feel about straight voting in local election?
Well, I have never been a proponent in my own personal life of voting a straight ticket, because I've always thought it's important to vote for the person or the issue as opposed to voting for the party. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't have any reservation in indicating that I vote for Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, me too.
Depending on who they are and what, you know, what they represent themselves to be, you know. So you asked me a question last week, PA, you know, a good question, a tough question. Do I consider myself conservative? Yeah. And I answered it basically trying to indicate that I feel that I'm more of an independent than a conservative. And the reason why I feel that way about who I am as a voter is when you start putting labels on people in regard to being liberal or progressive, as it's now being called, or conservative, then people draw conclusions immediately about what they think you're about and what you believe and don't believe in. And I heard a woman yesterday on one of the shows. She's a evangelical, and she is supporting Biden in this particular instance, even though, you know, most evangelicals appear to be in the Trump camp. And she says that, you know, her concern was about life in the womb, right? She's a pro-life person, but she says far too many of us who are considered conservatives and pro-life are concerned about life in the womb, but we sometimes don't necessarily care about what life looks like for people outside the womb.
There you go.
And I thought that was, I really dug the way she put that, you know? So no, I would never label myself anything other than independent, because, you know, I try to think and find the right person for the position as opposed to just voting for an ideology.
Right. An online question from Michael Smith. Judge, my niece adopted 2 small children from a unfit mother. Does she have to allow the mother visitation for those kids?
Wow. Well, if she has adopted them, that means she is now the legal parent of those children, which means she has the authority to she has the only authority to make the decisions about who these children are associated with in any manner. Here's the other thing. The mother, in order to have been able to adopt his niece, in order to have been able to adopt the mother who was the mother of these children, her rights have been completely terminated. She has no more right to these children by law than you or I have. So the adoptive mother certainly has the discretion, the authority, and the right to decide to deny these children from having any parenting time with the mother whose parental rights have been terminated.
And I find in some of those cases, the kids really want to have a connection with their biological parents.
Yeah.
That's the struggle there.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. here, in that situation, I don't know these people, obviously, but here's the thing: it's a very emotional and difficult situation. The mother's parental rights were either terminated involuntarily, meaning she went through a trial and the court determined that her rights should be terminated, or more often than you would think, she may parents make the decision that they feel like they just can't be the parent that they need to be, and they voluntarily terminate their parental rights. They allow their parental rights to be terminated. And that happens quite often in situations where that parent knows that there is somebody that is going to be able to adopt them, that they would, essentially would approve of. And that's a good situation, because that gets the children into a better, more stable environment on a permanent basis.
Right.
But there is still the opportunity for that relationship that you're talking about to be allowed by the adopted person, because they have a relationship with the parent who gave up their parental rights. Where it goes off the rails is when there's acrimony and difficulty between the parent whose rights were terminated and the adopted person, who, even though they may know them, they don't get along very well. Or the parent whose rights have been terminated is having a really, really difficult time accepting that, and they present themselves all wrong, as opposed to trying to work to a really good solution. They make things difficult to the point that that person says, well, if you're not going to work with me, then I'm just going to push you. I'm just going to keep you out.
Has this new drugs, these Oxycontin, all these different pain pills people are taking now, this drug use, and people are dying. What's the drug people are doing overdosing from? And I know they're coming up in your court, the elephant tranquilizer. I can think
You name it.
Yeah.
But
have you seen, have that resulted in a lot more people, a lot more requests for termination of parental rights in comparison to the crack cocaine era?
I have a difficult time kind of gauging that. I don't know if I can really gauge that in that way. Here's what I would say. I would say that the prevalence of drug use in places where crack cocaine was not traditionally understood to be used, because it was being used, fentanyl. That's
fentanyl. Yeah, thanks.
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Where crack cocaine was traditionally not believed to be used, even though it was being used there, in suburbia, in rural America. It wasn't just an urban phenomenon. But clearly, fentanyl, oxy, methamphetamines, and all the heroin, all these kinds of drugs have truly made their way into suburbia and rural America. And it's creating a whole different class, if you will, a whole different group of drug abusers, and all of the difficulties that creates for families and for children and that kind of thing. So in that sense, I would say it probably is.
Wow. Another question from Mike Smith, who said, why isn't there a state law against firearms on the state capitol grounds? Good question.
Man, excellent question. And here's what I think I understood that just happened here in Michigan. The Secretary of State, I believe it's the Secretary of State. I can't remember which of the cabinet members, Secretary of State or the Attorney General, but some cabinet member at that highest level has the custodial authority over the state capitol, meaning they kind of set the rules for the state capitol. And they signed an order in that capacity very recently that was not going to allow firearms inside
Okay.
the state capitol,
Okay.
inside the facility. I think the law allows for them to be able to assemble with open carry outside, but inside the facility, I think there are rules that can be promulgated by that cabinet member, and I think they just did that.
Wow. Where are we at on Father's Day? You Thursdays you grant fatherhood to people who
Well,
don't show up.
I, uh, I haven't had a like the old school Father's Day in quite a while since certainly since COVID hit. That's a good question. I'm wondering what's going on, man. I don't know why those aren't getting to me like they used to. Maybe part of it is that we have created, I think, a little bit different processing of how those cases are dealt with, because I have seen a reduction in the cases that come directly to me anyway, even before COVID went into effect. Hey, PA, let me talk about for a minute though this expungement piece.
Okay. Yes, definitely.
Because this is huge, man. This is the kind of legislation that when we send people to the state legislature, this is the kind of work that we want them to be doing. Is legislation that has the real potential and ability to help make a difference in a positive way for people here in the state of Michigan. So what it's called is, it's the popular name of this is called clean slate legislation. And it's been signed into law now by Governor Whitman.
Okay.
And what this clean slate legislation actually is, it's a group of about 7 different bills that have been signed into law that change greatly the manner in which expungement is dealt with here in the state of Michigan. And amongst the big pieces of those 7 bills that are taken together to be considered this clean slate legislation, let me go through a little bit of it. And I got a little cheat sheet here in front of me. One of the things that it does is that it creates an automated process for expunging eligible misdemeanor crimes after 7 years and eligible non-assaultive felonies after 10 years. That's big.
Right.
What that does is that basically it's an automatic process that after 7 years, for the eligible types of misdemeanors, the process begins to expunge it from your record. You don't have to do anything.
That's what's up right there.
That part of it is going to go through. It's got to be phased in, because what's required is the technological ability and the appropriation from the legislature for the financing to create that that technological ability to have that automated process. So they got to still approve the money,
right,
and create the and purchase the technology, which I believe is already created. So it's going to take a couple years for that to actually go into place. One of the things that this clean legislation does is that it makes most convictions for traffic offenses, which some are considered criminal cases, eligible for expungement. Criminal traffic cases weren't eligible for expungement. So a lot of people have misdemeanor traffic cases on their record that they can't get off their record. It reduces the waiting period to file a petition to expunge an eligible misdemeanor conviction to 3 years. up to this point, you had to be at least 5 years removed from that conviction in order to begin the process for expungement. Now that's been reduced to 3 years. It also, this is a really huge piece. It increases the number of misdemeanors and felonies which would be eligible that can be expunged to an unlimited number of non-assaultive misdemeanors and up to 3 felonies. That's huge, man.
Wow. Yeah. That's a real restart, reboot, refresh.
That's a reboot, man.
Yeah. Man.
That it used to be you were limited, I think, to 1 expungement in your lifetime.
Wow.
Certainly 1 felony expungement of a case that is eligible. So when I keep saying eligible for expungement, there are certain cases that obviously would not be eligible for expungement. You can't get a murder off your record.
Yeah.
You can't get a rape off your record.
Right.
Makes sense. A lot of assaultive crimes are still going to remain on that record.
It's this probably the most progressive piece of criminal justice reform that we have seen in the Midwest. I don't know if Illinois is doing anything like this. This is some good work for our Republicans and Democrats to come together.
Isn't that big? That's big. So here's another big one. Now, you got to follow me on this. It allows multiple convictions for certain offenses arising out of a single incident, so to speak, to become eligible for expungement as a single offense. So what they call this, PA, is they call it the one bad night expungement. You go out and you just have one heck of a bad night, and you do a whole bunch of stupid stuff.
Wild out. It's wild out.
Right. You just run out.
Right.
And the way that they would now allow that to be treated is that would be considered for expungement purposes, as long as they were eligible offenses, to be a single offense. So you're not dipping over into your 3 felonies necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
It may be considered just 1 offense, and it can be taken off your record. But here's a little bit of statistics that go behind that. Within 2 years of a person getting offenses expunged from their record, historically, the data shows that they see a 25% increase in their earning power.
Wow.
Because they get a job.
Yeah. It's very significant.
Or they can qualify for a promotion to a certain type of job that doesn't allow for a certain kind of a record.
Right.
So this is not only, obviously criminal justice reform. I think where the sort of the conservative justification for that is that it's economically feasible. It's economic impact. We're getting people who are able to get jobs, who are able to pay taxes and all that kind of thing, because they get this weight off their back with these expungements. You can't get that job.
That's big husband, and this is signed into law. This is voted on, signed, all that.
It is. Governor Whitmer has already signed it into law, and it should everything except the piece I said it's going to take a couple of years to develop should be in effect as of April of next year. April.
Now, did all this start because of the protesting that happened during the summertime?
No. This has been being discussed. I know personally for at least the last 18 months or so.
Okay.
when this kind of legislation is being considered, one of the things that happens for us as judges is that our local legislators will actually reach out to us and ask us our opinion to help them form their opinion on how they're going to vote.
Okay.
And we've been talking about this with our state reps and state senators. You know, we meet with them at least twice a year. In a big, you know, we have a big meeting where we just talk about these issues. And then they reach out on their own. But we've been talking about this in this meetings, these bi-yearly meetings, for about 18 months.
Right. Right. And we're going to go back to Twig Murray comment, but Anthony Miller says social reform. So many people will benefit from this.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Yeah.
This is the kind of thing. It's not a matter of being soft on crime, because this isn't. No. This is a matter of when people are done with what they've done as a crime, what can we do to help them to regain their place in the society? Because when you commit a crime, when people commit crimes, they're not going away.
Exactly.
They're right here. They're still with us. And we should be talking about how to help people to be productive with us in our communities after they've, you know, met the scrutiny that their crime called for.
Oh, we got a comment from Twig Murray. Said, "Hey, Judge Pittman, I saw you on the Dr. Phil show yesterday. It was a rerun of The Young White Male. So you was on TV, man?"
Well, listen, man. Here's the thing, kid. There was a case that I think I mentioned last time we were on, an attorney out of Detroit, a guy named Arnold Reed.
Okay.
He, you know, he's kind of one of these guys, good guy, real good lawyer, you know, but he's not afraid of publicity. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
He knows where the camera is.
Okay.
And he picked up a case here in Muskegon that got the attention of Dr. Phil. And it was my case. It was a juvenile case. And long story short, he was able to convince Dr. Phil and those guys to follow him as he handled this case in my court. So they came here and filmed. I think they came 3 different times. I had 3 different hearings with this young man. And they were here each time, you know, taking film as they followed this case, while Dr. Phil was kind of counseling with this young man and his family as he's getting himself through this criminal trouble that he was involved in. So early on, of course, as you know, PA, I had to sign a waiver, or not a waiver. What is it? That allows them to use my likeness. You know. Okay. An agreement that allowed me to use my likeness in what they filmed, and I've forgotten that I signed it. You know, this has been over the course of about a year. And Arnold called me and said, "Hey, man, Dr. Phil's going to show that he's going to put that show on," and he said the producers, man, really dug how you talk to this kid, and they want to, you know, they're going to make part of what we did in court a part of the show, because, you know, as you know, the television show, man, they probably film 10 hours to get one. Right. So you easily wind up on the cutting room floor. So I guess they wound up putting me in. So I said, okay, man, that's great. And then I forgot about it again. So he texted me this morning and said, "Hey, man, the show was on yesterday. It was great." I'm like, I texted him, man, why didn't you tell me yesterday? Right. I told my peoples, you know, we could have had a watch party. Yeah. So now we gotta find that. Thanks, Twig. If you have it, put it in my inbox. I'll see, can we pop it up on the screen?
And man, that's good, Judge. The world need to see you, man.
Well, I imagine I'm not on there for very long, because they have so much to cover. But
what made this case so unique?
Well, in all honesty, to me, I really don't think there was anything incredibly unique about this young man's case. Matter of fact, I can't even remember what the crime was, and it wasn't something real serious. But what I think might have been attractive to as a case study was that it was first of all, he's a very personable young man. He had very supportive parents. And he was a kid who it kind of felt like he was at a crossroads between going down a really bad path or being able to divert himself off of that bad path and get back on track. And it's the kind of case where I think, that's in Dr. Phil's wheelhouse, is to provide the kind of counseling and therapy to this kid to help him get on the right track. And then Arnold Reed, the attorney, is he's a very charismatic kind of a guy. So it had all of the flavor of this would look good on television.
Okay, and we know how smooth you is. Yeah, we know how smooth you is too, though.
Mix.
Oh man. Okay. All right. We got to track this one down. Somebody got the bootleg copy. Hit me up. You know what I mean?
Well,
let me know.
I'm sure it's on demand.
Okay.
Phil is on Oxygen Network, I think, primarily, and I'm sure it's on demand. So I'm going to look for it tonight and show it to talk my wife into watching me on TV.
Right. Shout out to Oprah for putting people on, man. Shout out to Oprah for putting people on, man.
Yeah. Hey, man, he got a nice long run out of that thing, didn't he?
Yeah.
A lot of money.
That's right.
So Arnold and I were talking. Arnold is a Kappa. He's a Kappa down to his socks, right? And I'm a Q, so we're going at each other anyway, just having fun. But he was saying, man, who knows where this kind of thing goes? We both know Judge Mathis. He was like, man, that's how Greg got on, man. Is he got noticed and was doing some things, innovative things and speaking in a certain kind of way, and look at where he is now. I said, well, hey man, if you can get on, bring your boy.
Yeah. Legal counsel.
Something, anything.
Right.
I'll sleep the floor if they pay me right.
Exactly, man.
So I'm going to see that myself.
The debate tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're watching. It's must-see TV.
Yes, sir.
What are you expecting to see? What should we see?
Well, what we should see, what we would hope to see, is a discussion of the closing arguments for each of them as to why we should vote for either of them, right? That's what this should really be about. This should be them making the closing argument, making a case for why they are the right choice to be the president of this country. What I think we're going to see is, a continuation of what we saw the last time, which is going to be confusion. It's going to be deception and taking us away from substance and heading into all manner of deceit as far as taking our eye off the ball. Because you know what this should be about, PA? This should, and I think this is in every kind of a situation where you have a incumbent. Anthony Miller says what we should see is a mute button.
Right. That's it. It's in effect tonight.
It's in effect tonight. But this is, I don't care how you cut it. When you have an incumbent running for a second term, a great part of what is the substance is it's a referendum on who and how they have conducted themselves in the office in the term that they were given.
Right.
So if you're Barack Obama, or even if George W. Bush, after 9/11 and all that kind of thing, you're running in 2004, you have a record that you can run on, that you can point to and say, here's what happened in the first term. Here's how I handled what happened in the first term. I think we did the right thing. I think we did a good job, and I think I deserve a second term because of how I handled the first term.
Right.
I think that's just a simple way to look at that, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Here's the difficulty for Donald Trump. His first term, he has a difficult time being able to just focus on what it is that I did and how it turned out and how I handled it and myself. And when people began to ask him questions and press him about the health plan that he promised in 2015, that we have yet to see even the template of what that health plan looks like, he wants to divert our attention to something else. When he talks about the promise of building this wall and Mexico is going to pay for it back in 2015.
That lie.
Show us the receipt.
Yeah.
That Mexico wrote the check to pay for whatever construction is going on down there on that wall. When you talked about the idea that immigration was going to be resolved, show us the legislation that has been enacted that answers the questions for dreamers and handles DACA and gives us a clear, clean process, regardless of whether we agree with it or not, a clear, clean process of how people who are seeking asylum and seeking to come into our country are being handled in an orderly and fair, dispassionate way. You can't point to any of that. When you said that you were going to clean up the swamp back in 2015, and yet people point to the fact that there have been 8 criminal convictions of people who were either part of your administration or part of the campaign to become president, who have been convicted of criminal behavior. Is that cleaning the swamp? When you look at the number of resignations that were made in order to avoid further scrutiny out of your cabinet, people like your former HHS director and people like staffers at high levels who have been convicted of criminal behavior. Is the swamp cleaner? When it is shown 13 days before the election that all of this talk that you make about the secret deals and the machinations that are going on with people in China, it's shown that you have a secret bank account in China where you've done business, where you have paid nearly $200,000 in taxes to the Chinese government in the same 2-year period that you paid approximately $1,500 to the United States government.
Man, sound like a hustle.
So when we heard President Obama yesterday in Philadelphia, first of all, it felt good to hear a grown-up who was speaking from the position of having been president. But the takedown that this brother did, based on not him creating any issues, simply analyzing the performance of the president over these 4 years. It was incredible. One of the things Obama said was, you don't have a health care plan, even though you have been promising us since 2015 that it was coming in 2 weeks. I thought that was hilarious. When he said that you told the people in Erie, Pennsylvania, that you had to go back to work. Aren't you the president? Shouldn't you already have been working?
Right. Thanks, Kay, just let us know that we our stream went down on one of our Facebook page.
Okay.
Probably on my main page. It might have went down, but I think we still live on radio. On 103.7 Beat and through 103.7 Beat Facebook page. It's the Honorable Judge Pittman Radio Show. We got like probably about 8 minutes left. Judge, anything else you want to get into? I see we got a comment from Michael Anthony Smith. I think the Supreme Court is going to shoot him down when they meet November the 10th because there's no replacement plan. Just talking points.
Well, I don't share that same opinion. If he's talking about the Supreme Court looking at this affordable care litigation that's coming to them, which I think, it's a week after the election, because I don't think they're going to be motivated by the idea that because there is no replacement, that they're going to decide in favor of maintaining, some portions or portion of the Affordable Care Act. I think, especially if Amy Coney Barrett is approved and on the court at that time, I think she has shown through her comments and through her prior remarks and even in analysis of other cases that she is absolutely a vote for the striking down of the Affordable Care Act of Obamacare. This is going to be some tricky terrain coming up here, and after the election, if President Trump is defeated, the level of work that is going to have to be put into fixing and completing and replacing and getting things back on a better footing for our country is going to be huge. There's so much work that has to be done to get us back to what I think is simply square one, back to ground zero. We've lost a lot of position in a lot of things and a lot of places because it really appeared, in my opinion, that that President Trump was more devoted to trying to unravel the work and legacy of the Obama-Biden administration than he was with coming up with ideas and programming based on what he actually believes in. Because I really don't think the guy believes in very much. I think he's so incredibly transactional that it's all about what's in front of him, right?
What he can get.
Yeah.
I tell you what,
he doesn't have any deeply held convictions, in my opinion.
He still has a huge following and can't be counted out on this election.
That's where, if we're going to spend the last couple of minutes here, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Folks, even though you hear and see polls and you see the pundits and they talk about, what's different this year versus Hillary Clinton as an opponent. And I think those are legitimate. I think those are legitimate observations, without a question.
Mm-hmm.
But there's enough trickery, there's enough ill will, There's enough trickeration in the game.
Trickeration going on.
and here's what's really frightening. There's enough deficit of character in this president and people around him who are willing to carry out his mandates, that we are going to go into territory that has never, ever been seen as it relates to electoral politics in the United States. So one of the things that has to happen is that the few things that we as just private citizens can control is putting the vote out there. What happens with it and what people do with it, it's going to get a little tricky.
Mm-hmm.
But the vote has to be there for those who are able to keep things on the right track, to be able to have something to fight with, to fight against this trickeration that's being ginned up in all different kinds of ways. See, if there is no vote there, then you got nothing to fight for anyway.
You got to show up.
Got to show up. You got to vote to give them the tools to be able to deal with what's coming down the pike.
So you expect some of these poll watchers to be objecting to some of the folks voting?
Well, I mean, there are official, when the absentee ballots are counted, the parties have the right to have people who can, in fact, be challengers to what those absentee ballots look like. That's going to happen. That's in the rules.
Mm-hmm.
That's expected.
All right.
What I'm talking about is these lawyers who are staying up all night figuring out how to pull and bend and stretch what the laws are to fit a malfeasant agenda that is being brought by those who are choosing not to accept the legitimacy of the vote itself.
Before we go, Michael Anthony Smith says democracy has been challenged. It must be brought back. Richard Wright, another Heist Tigers over there, and he probably in Bloomfield Hills. He over there in Bloomfield next to Joe Dumars. Says, speaking truth, Pitt.
I think his kids go to school in the Wall Lake school.
Okay.
Wall Lake.
Okay. Over there, that's Oakland County.
Yeah. Is that Livingston?
Okay. Maybe Macomb, one of those areas.
Maybe Livingston or Oakland. Yeah, yeah.
So also Anthony Miller said, thank God Americans are strong people.
Well, it's amazing, man, that there are people who this president is standing before and lying to unabashedly, conflicting with his own statements, and they know that.
Right.
And they have chosen yet to simply ignore that for some reason. But I say it all the time, PA, when you ask me, and I appreciate the question. What is it that we should be looking for in the people we're voting for? I say it all the time. Character counts. I'm not saying they're perfect people, and I'm not saying that there isn't games that are being played by people in these places. But there's a certain point of the acceptance of truth, the appreciation of what our institutions are supposed to stand for, and ultimately the idea that when I have been defeated on the point that I'm making, I accept that defeat.
Right. Judge, one last question. Nothing to do with politics. We got a roll, but I got to get your opinion. We didn't talk about this last week. Is LeBron James the greatest of all times?
No.
There you go.
No.
Who is, Judge, in your opinion?
I think it's a healthy debate that's got to be had. But see, people are forgetting about people like Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Kareem. Of course, the conversation is always, is it Magic? I mean, is it Michael or is it LeBron? But there are so many transformative basketball. Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double in his career. Averaged a triple-double.
Who would be your pick? I know it's hard.
Oh, man, I don't
Herman Randall. Hey, Herman Randall.
Well,
you know he had it.
I'm a Lee Gilbert man myself.
Okay, yeah.
That's back in the day. Hey, listen, Michael Smith, King, that's an all-stater right there, man.
He said, what about Larry Bird?
Exactly. Larry Bird.
He was being funny, man. He being funny with that one.
He might be being funny, but Larry Bird was a baller.
Tony Miller says Mike Magic Johnson. MJ could be on Michael Jordan, was Air Jordan.
I'm a Magic fan.
Magic. So give me one, Judge. Take us out of here. Give me one.
Well, now if I had to just simply look at the MJ versus LeBron,
it don't have to be one of them. Just tell me who would you say is the GOAT?
Man. I'm a big Bill Russell fan.
Wow.
He played defense. He played offense. He coached and played. He was a player coach and won a championship. I don't know if people realize that.
I didn't know that.
He was the anchor of the run that the Boston Celtics made for like 10, 12 years where they won championship after championship. I'm a big Bill Russell fan.
Bill Russell. Okay. I'm about to go watch some video now. Find me some videos on YouTube. You
need to. The man could rebound when he blocked shots. He didn't knock them up into the third row. He played them into one of his teammates' hands so they could start the fast break. That's cerebral. That's smart basketball.
Let me go find out he's on Omega Sci-Fi. I know what's up. Then
he ain't the bro. Cornbread Maxwell is the bros from the Celtics.
Okay. All right. Was he the reason for that movie Cornbread Earl and Me?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Tony says Bill was rough. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, everyone who was watching online. Sorry, I don't know what happened on my personal page. I heard it went down for a minute and came back up, but it was on 1037 Facebook page and other Facebook pages. Thank you, Judge. Are we on for next week?
I'm at home. We are on until the election is over, brother.
Yeah. Oh, me, how I go? Oh, Judge.
It was only 8 teams at that. But listen, I know you got to
shots.
Bill Russell played center. He on a given night he had to play Wilt. He had to play Nate Thurman. He had to play Artis Gilmore. He had to play Walt Bellamy. He had to play Bob Lanier. He had to play big man every night that are in the Hall of Fame.
There you go, Q. Now take that. Okay. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Judge, man. Love you, man.
Love you too, man. I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Peace.
Vote. Go vote. Go vote tomorrow.
There you go. Holla.